AI has learned code.
And if you don't realize that you could just go to Claude and learn this stuff, then you're not somebody I'm going to invest in.
This is what this Claude Code thing is. There is zero time for bullshit. The AI model will be writing 90% of the lines of code.
This computer can perform all these things that you're instructing it to do and doing it so easily.
It's like, hey, I need to raise some money so I can go out and get a developer.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
There's only one skill that you need to learn in 2026, because this one skill will literally determine if you will be successful in the future, or, and I'm very sorry to say this, we always very direct on this channel, if you will be redundant and replaced by AI, because the future will look very, very different than the one we have now. And to be frank, the current school system and work environment is by no means preparing people for what's to come. In the future, you will not be valued for the work that you do. You're going to be valued for how good you are at instructing AI in doing stuff for you. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, big parts of it can be automated if you know the right tools. But lucky for you, you found this full free course. Most guides on YouTube show basic ChatGPT or maybe Claude Code work, but this is not one of those guides. This is the full course for the only tool you need to know how to use, which is Claude Code. It's the tool that everyone that actually understands AI are using. And if you learn it, then there's nothing that you can't automate, nothing that you can't build. If you don't know me, my name is Albert, and I didn't start technical. I didn't even go to university. However, I still managed to build something as technical as a full software to over $1 million at the age of 23, vibe coding with the tool that I'm about to show you. The tool that this entire course is about. And it's not because I'm some genius, I'm pretty average. It's because I learned the right tools and how to use them effectively. In this course, I'll show you how to set it up the right way and how to build anything from websites that you can sell for a couple of $100 to full autonomous AI systems that automate entire businesses. And these AI systems can go from 10K to multiple six figures. You are not gonna want to miss this one. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Claude Code can now do this. Claude Code is replacing my entire team. I just built this with Claude Code. And you think, okay, let me check this out. So you open it up and it looks like this. It looks scary when you just open it up. By the end of this video, this screen is going to feel like the most powerful AI tool that you have ever used. This is the full Claude Code beginner's course. Let's get into it, shall we? And this is probably you right now. It's at least most people. Right now, most people are sitting in ChatGPT or in Claude in the browser, and they're copy-pasting things in, asking questions. They are trying to explain their problems to the AI. And every time they create a new session, some of that information that they gave it is now lost. So they have to re-explain things over and over and over again about themselves and their problem. And that is where Claude Code comes in. The main difference between Claude in your browser and then Claude Code is that Claude Code lives right on your computer. And I get it, it looks scary in a terminal, but later in this course, I'll show you how to set it up the right way. What is the difference from Claude in your browser and then Claude Code on your computer? The main difference is that with Claude in your browser, you have to paste in your project. Where if you have a project on your computer, Claude Code can read all of that. It can find the exact things, the exact context it needs in order to solve problems. On top of that, when you get a response from ChatGPT or from Claude, it tells you what to do. Claude Code can go in and it can write the files for you. It can even run code for you, so it can test itself. If it makes a change to a project, it can go in and test that change itself and create a loop of improvements. And when you learn how to use Claude Code the right way, which we're going to take a look at later in this course, you can also make Claude Code better as you use it and teach it how to improve itself when it makes mistakes. The way we can do this is with Claude Code's strongest feature, in my opinion, which is the Claude Skills. The skills allows you to build in rules inside of Claude Code that allows it to behave or do something in a specific way. If you are using Claude Code to answer your emails, for example, you can give it a Claude skill that explains exactly how you respond. And you can basically tune it to sound exactly like you with a skill. Claude Code is something that I tell absolutely everyone to learn, because it's really where things are heading right now. If you've been in the AI space, then just the past months, you've seen how much AI has been exploding and how much better it's getting every few months. Claude Code is the way to give your AI as much access, as much power as possible, so you can make it do exactly what you want. Because the terminal and living on your computer is by far much better and much more powerful for the AI than being in your browser. In your terminal and on your computer, it can run commands, it can run code, it can build code, it can do anything. And because of this, and because how much stronger Claude Code is than regular Claude, the gap between people learning how to use this on their computer and then just people using it in the browser, and the people learning how to fully use AI are also the people who are going to be able to take advantage of it and be rewarded for it. And if you really master Claude Code, then you can set it up so it runs at all times. It builds out things for you even when you sleep. You have your own employees. And this beginner course is designed to show you exactly how to get started the best way for just that. Let's get it set up, shall we? The first thing you need, if you haven't downloaded it already, is something called Node.js. So just search for Node.js download, and then find this first one, nodejs.org, and then download the right version for your computer just by clicking Mac OS installer right here and downloading it to your computer, because this allows you to install Claude Code directly with a command. So just click the Mac installer and download it directly to your computer and install it just like that. Now you want to install what's called a code editor. And a code editor is basically a place where your Claude Code can live, and also where you can see and you can edit code. The best code editor to use, in my opinion, is Visual Studio Code. So you can just search for Visual Studio Code download. That's going to take you to this page right here, and then download it for your computer. When you have it downloaded, then you can open Visual Studio Code, and it's going to take you to this page right here, where we can open a project. Go to your desktop or wherever you want to place a project, create a new folder, and call this something, just to learn it. We'll call it Starter. Then you can go back into Visual Studio Code, you can click Open, then you can open the folder Starter that we just created. And click Yes, I trust the authors. There we go. I can click on this little X right here to close the welcome page. And now we have a code editor. And like I explained before, a code editor is basically just a place where you can manage and edit code. And it's a really good idea to run Claude Code from inside of a code editor, because that makes it easier to see what Claude Code actually does. The next thing we want to do is that we want to open the terminal, and on Mac you can go up in the top, click Terminal and click New Terminal, just like this. If you are on Windows, then you can find the Visual Studio Code terminal command. If you click Ctrl-Shift-Alt and then this right here, then it also opens the terminal. When you have the terminal open, then go back to your browser and search for Claude Code install. And then click on this quick start guide right here. When you scroll down, you're going to find the installation link. Just use the one that's right for your computer. So I'm going to copy the Mac one. And I'm going to insert this into my terminal and then hit enter. What this will do is that this will download Claude Code to our computer. You can see it says setting up Claude Code installed successfully, installation complete. Now, in your terminal, you can write exactly like this, clear. What this does is that this clears the terminal, and then hit enter. After you've installed it, you can just write Claude, and this is going to open the Claude onboarding. We can choose what kind of mode we want. I definitely want to choose dark mode. And the way you move around is that you use the arrow keys up and down, and then when you want to choose the option, then you just hit enter. Now you have 3 options for how you want to pay for Claude Code. If you head over to Claude AI, if you don't have it already, then set up an account and you go inside of View All Plans. You can see the plans that Claude Code have. Right now I am on the Max plan because I'm using Claude Code a lot. The best place to start for you is probably with the Pro plan. It's $20 a month. And you can see this allows you to have Claude Code as well. You'll probably run into some limit issues if you're using Claude Code a lot, but start on the Pro plan and then later you can decide if you want to upgrade. You can also use the Anthropic API key directly, but this will cost you a lot more than just getting a subscription. Inside of Claude.ai, choose the plan that you want and go through that flow of setting up your account with your subscription. After you've done that, you can go back inside of Claude. You can choose Claude account with subscription, hit enter, and this is going to open it up in your browser where you can click authorize and authorize your account. When you go back into Claude, you can see it says login successful. You can hit enter and then hit enter again, and then click yes, use recommended settings, hit enter, and there we go. Now we have Claude Code successfully installed on our computer. This right window on the right here also says build with AI agent, but that's the native AI agent inside of Visual Studio Code. We don't need that, so I'm just going to close that down. We want to use Claude Code. The way that you navigate around is that you use slash commands. So if I write slash and then click help, for example, I can see all of the commands that I can use. I can use the arrow keys to go from general to commands, and I can see all of the commands that I can use. And there's a lot of commands inside of Claude Code. If I want to get out of that view, I can just click escape like I just did, and that takes us back to the main page. If I write slash model, that's one of the commands, I can set the model that Claude Code is using. You can see right now it's on default and it's using Opus 4.6. If I wanted to, I can also choose Sonnet, which is a lighter model, it's cheaper, or I can use Haiku, which is the fastest, but also a not as smart model as Opus. So let's use Opus. What we can also do if I use the arrow keys is down at the bottom, you can see it says medium effort. So I can choose if I want low effort, medium effort, or high effort. And what this does is that this basically determines for how long Claude is thinking. For now, we're going to set it to medium effort like it was by default and hit enter. If we at any time, you can see now we see some commands. If you want to have a fresh workspace, then you can just write slash clear. And this basically just clears the entire workspace and starts a new session. The way Claude Code works, just like you would start a new conversation inside of ChatGPT, is that I can write, hi, can you hear me? And every time I do this, it starts a new session. You can see it says, yes, I can hear you. How can I help? I can start as many sessions that I want inside of Claude Code that can work in the same time. The way I do that is that I can click this little plus right here. And now you can see it starts a new terminal right below the current one that we have. I can then write Claude once again, and now it's starting a new session. Do you know my name? And you can see it knows my name. And now we have two different conversations. If I want it in one view, I can do what's called splitting the terminal. And I do that by clicking this little icon right here. And I basically do the same as we just did. It's just in the same view. So I can write Claude again, then I can write hi. And now you can see we have 3 different Claude sessions running at once. That's one of the ways that you can be very, very productive with Claude Code. You can run a lot of sessions at once, doing different things to really boost your productivity. If I wanted to stop a session, I can just click on this little trash icon right here, and this closes the terminal. So let me write clear. This basically resets both sessions. If I write resume now, I can see the previous conversations that I had. You can see, do you know my name? Hi, can you hear me? And if I wanted to go back to one of those sessions, I can just hit enter, and now we're back to the session. Let me delete this so we only have one to give you a better overview. Write clear, and now we have a clear conversation. Okay, let's start building something so you can see the power of Claude Code. What I'll do is that I'll use this tool. I want to build a website for my AI agency that's called shiny.ai. I want you to add a lot of animations. I want you to build it with Next.js, and I want it to be really modern and really clean and really futuristic with a lot of different animations and good copywriting that is high converting. What this tool does is that this basically takes my voice and then it creates a really good prompt out of it. So when I hit enter now, you can see it took my voice, it created a full prompt that's going to get us a way better output. It says you are a senior full stack web developer with 8 years of expertise in Next.js, modern web design, so it gives it the role. It also gives out the exact instructions to what I wanted to say, and then it explains how to format its response, and then it says please take your time with this, thank you for your help. Now it's going to start building out this project for us. Claude Code is now asking if it should build out mockups for us. We don't want that, so for now I'm just going to say no, just build it out for us please, thank you. And there we go. Now Claude Code will build out this entire website for us. Sometimes it will request approvals like this, like if it can run this command. So what we'll do is that we'll use our arrow keys, go down to yes and don't ask again, and then hit enter, and then hit enter, because Claude Code needs to install all of the things that it needs. Same for this command. So I'm just going to accept these things that it asks for, and then I'm going to let it build out this website. And this is probably going to take around 5 minutes. There we go. This took about 5 minutes, and now it says it is ready. To run it, it says npm run dev, and then open localhost. What does that mean? Well, let me show you. You, in a new terminal, click this little plus, and that's usually how you run whatever it is that you have built. You have some command that basically runs the project, and for now it's npm run dev. So I'm going to paste that in from Claude's instruction, hit enter, and now you can see starting up our website on localhost 3000. So what I'll do now is that I'll copy this little URL right here, write in localhost 3000, copy that in, hit enter, and now it's going to show our website. Just like that. We build AI systems that actually ship. AI moves the needle. Look at this cool website that we just built in 5 minutes. I hope you see the power of what Claude Code can build in a very short amount of time. And think about the possibilities. You can go out and sell websites, apps, automations, automate entire systems with Claude Code and sell that to business owners. If you want the quickest way to learn how to do that and go out and do it, then you should definitely check out our community, the 1% in AI. Inside of here, we are right now running the 30-day challenge, where you get this sheet. And when you fill out this sheet and get to 100%, then see what it says right here. Complete the 30-day challenge and get a full refund. If you want to check that out, I'll left the link right below this video. The next thing I want to show you is if you write clear now, and then you write exactly this in it, then hit enter, what this will do is that this will initialize a new, what is called a Claude.md file. So hit enter right here. And what this will do is that this will force Claude to read through our project now, because we've now built a project, and create what is called a Claude.md file. And a Claude.md file is basically instructions specifically for Claude in this project for how to behave that it reads every single time it starts a new session. And there we go. Now we have created a Claude.md file. We can find this in our project directory that is called Claude.md. This file right here is basically just a text file that includes instructions, but this will be read every single time Claude starts a new session, which gives it context. So what you can do inside of this file is that you can add a rule section, and then you can write never update any code without first asking me 3 clarifying questions about what it is that we are updating. So you can basically give Claude Code specific instructions for how to behave every single session. If I write clear now, and I then say, please change the color to a light green on my website, and hit enter, now you can see it says, before I make any changes, I need to ask 3 clarifying questions as per the project rules. So now we can answer these 3 questions. Yes, what you prefer. Yes. And by knowing how to use the Claude.md file, you can give specific rules for how it should behave every single time. And that is one of the most powerful things with Claude Code compared to Claude in your browser. You can design it to respond exactly like you want to by creating and updating this Claude.md file. And now if we go back to our website, you can see now our website is green instead. The next thing I want to show you is Claude Skills. You've probably heard about them before. Claude Skills are pretty similar to the Claude.md file. It's also what's called a markdown file. A markdown file is basically just a text document like we have here. You can see this is not code, this is just text. And it includes instructions just like the rules that we just added. What Claude Skills are is just specific documents that Claude sometimes calls. And we can also manually call a skill. If I write / and then skills, and hit enter, you can see the skills I have. I have a vibe security skill, I have a prompt architect skill, I have a composer skill, I have a copywriting skill. I have all of these skills inside of my Claude Code. If you want all of the skills that I'm using, then you can check out our free community, completely free to join. There's 147,000 people inside of here already. If you go inside of Classroom and then inside of AI Learning Hub and scroll down until you find the Claude Skills, there's a drive folder right here that basically just includes all of my Claude skills. Let me hit escape here and go back and show you what a skill is and how to install it. If I go inside of this Google Drive right here, and you can see this front-end design skill right here, and I click on the skill.md, you can see what this actually is. It's just a text document with instructions for how to design. It says right up here at the top, name, description, and what it's used for. The rest of the skill is just a detailed prompt for how the AI should design. I really hope that you guys are enjoying this course. I'm trying to provide as much value completely for free. It would mean the world to me if you hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me out a ton. All right, let's continue with the video. Let me show you how to actually use a skill. If I write slash and then front-end design, and I'll show you how to install skills in just a second. I just want to show you the power of it. I'll paste in a section right below this that I want to give a makeover. I want to give it a clean animation that has something to do with lead reactivation and engaging old leads and conversations with those. I want you to create a detailed animation that looks very professional for my website in the hero section. This will write out the entire prompt for us in a structured manner and not this messy manner that I just explained it in. Then we can go and we can copy this and we can basically just include this. This is the section I want to give a makeover. And then hit enter. Now we're using the front-end design skill, which is used for beautiful front-end design. We're giving a good prompt for what we want to include, and then we paste it in the section that we want to change. When we give it this skill, it's ultimately going to get this context inside of this file. And that's the idea. That's the reason that we use skills. We give it the right context, the right instructions for creating really nice design, and now it's going to use this information and give us a better result. That's the entire reason that we use Claude Skills. It's to give us the best possible results. Cool, now it made a bunch of changes. Let's see how the animation actually looks. You can see it created a really cool looking animation going on in the background with this front-end design skill. We can tip and tune this, but I hope you see the point that you can use the front-end design skill to improve how Claude Code designs stuff. And you can basically find a skill for whatever it is that you're trying to create. Let me show you how to install a Claude skill, because it's very easy. All we do is that we find the skill that we want to install, like this front-end design skill, click download, and this will download it as a zip file. Now, double-click on the zip file to unzip it, and then go inside of Claude Code and run a new session. Now drag this into Claude Code, and then write exactly this. Please research how to install Claude Skills from documentation, and then install this skill. It's that easy, and that's another great thing about Claude Code, is that when you want to install something, 99% of the time, you can get Claude Code to install it for you, or at least instruct you in how to do it. Another key difference from something like ChatGPT. ChatGPT would explain how you go in and install it. Claude Code installs it for you. Now you can see it searching up the documentation online, and now it's going to install this Claude skill. And there we go, now the Claude skill is installed. To check that you now have the skill installed, click Ctrl+C, then you basically go out of Claude Code. So what I want to do now is that I want to restart Claude, and that's also how you do that. You click Ctrl+C, what this will do is that this will close Claude Code, and then we just write Claude again. That's going to open up a new Claude instance. And now if you write, you will now be able to see the front-end design skill. And it's that easy. That's how you create skills. You can literally just download this entire folder and then get all of my skills in literally like 1 minute. Just by taking this Claude skill and just say, research the Claude documentation, and then install these skills. Now I already have them installed, so I don't need to do that. Awesome. Now you have installed Claude Code, you have built your first project, and you understand Claude Skills. Already now you understand more than 80% of people. And you can really go down into a rabbit hole here. You can do so much with Claude Code. You should just start building. That's the only way to get good with these tools, is to actually use them absolutely every single day. You can build automations, you can build websites, you can build software, you can build apps. Whatever it is that you want to build, just start building. Learn how to use the tools, learn how to prompt. I promise you, it will be so worth it. A wise man once said that you have to get good before you can get rich. What do I mean with that? What you've probably seen on Instagram and all the other socials as well is people saying, go out, learn how to build websites and sell your first one for $10,000. And while it is true that you can sell websites for this much, is it realistic that you're going to go out and close a 10K deal as your first one? Well, probably not. And that is also what I mentioned earlier when we talked about expectations. It's probably not going to go that way. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first one is that you have absolutely no trust. And how do you build trust? Well, you need testimonials and you need previous experience. So when you hop on a call with someone, that you actually know what you're talking about, that you're actually certain in yourself that, okay, you can help this person get better results. In this course, I'll show you how to get both of those things. And what I'll also show you is the next part that you're lacking, which is skills. For some reason these days, people think that you can just go out and learn something in 5 minutes and all of a sudden charge thousands of dollars for it. I'm sorry, but that is not reality. You've got to understand that what people are paying you for is the time and effort you've put in to gather skills. Skills that this person that are paying you doesn't have themselves. If it was easy, the thing that you're doing, the thing that you had learned, then no one would pay you for it. So you have to do exactly what it is that you're doing right now when watching this video. You have to go out and you have to learn, you have to build these skills in order to get paid. And that's exactly what I mean when I say you have to get good before you get rich. And of course, that's also the entire point of this video, is to get you to build those skills. When I started my AI business, it didn't take a week, it didn't take a month, it didn't take 2 months. It took 4 months before I closed my first paying client for $400. And guess what I did before that? I did not charge $10,000 for a website. I actually did free work in order to actually build trust, to gain experience and to gain testimonials. And by doing the free work, I also gained the skills that I could later monetize and actually charge for. So if you're thinking right now, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to learn this, and then the next week I'm going to sell a 10K website, leave this video. This video is not for you. Understand that you have to build the skills before you can charge anything, and understand that this takes months. The way that I think about it is that there's kind of like 3 different levels to what you can be building when you're just starting out. The first level that I would recommend that you start with is AI generated websites. Specifically with Claude Code, it's extremely good at building websites. And let me show you something very, very interesting. If I head over to Claude and I ask how many small businesses still don't have a website, while I then drink my coffee, Claude is now going to research the web and find out the number. And now we can see that roughly 27 to 30% of businesses in 2026 have no website. So roughly 1 in 3 small businesses still don't have a website. So if you learn that skill of building websites, all of a sudden you can provide services to that 30%. And that 30% does not have a website. You can also build better websites and sell it to the rest of the 70% if you provide something that's better than what they currently have. So I can write, okay, so if it's 30%, how many businesses in that in, let's say, the US? Just to put a number for how many potential businesses that you could actually be working with. I'll take another sip of the coffee while Claude is researching. So in the US, there are 36 million small businesses, and 30% of that is then 10 million businesses without a website. And that is, in my opinion, the best place to start. Now you have millions of businesses that you could service with your skills. They don't know how to build websites with something like Claude Code. They are not going to learn it. They are focused on their craft. So when you in this course is going to learn how to build websites, all of a sudden you can service all of those businesses and provide a valuable service. That is level 1 out of 3. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the step up. Now you're not only building websites, you're also automating their business with automations and agents. This requires some more knowledge into integrations and APIs, but don't worry, you're going to be learning how to do that as well. And I'll say the final level is building out full AI systems for businesses that not only integrate into what they already have, but also where you are collecting all of the automations that you've built from level 2, and then maybe creating a dashboard or somehow building it into a full AI system. But of course, we don't start at level 3, we start at level 1, websites. And stay around, because later in the video, I'm going to show you exactly how you build those out in just a couple of minutes. If you do a small Claude search, and we basically just ask how many businesses in the US are still missing a website, what we'll find is approximately 30% of US small businesses don't have a website in 2026. Right now, there's approximately 36 million small businesses in the US, which means that we have around 10 million businesses without a website. And that's also why I previously showed you these 3 levels of things that you can build right off the bat, where website is level 1. The reason for that is that what this entire business model is about is that you learn skills, you learn how to do something well, where businesses would rather pay you to do it than do it and find out how to do it themselves. And building websites is one of those things that still have a lot of perceived value. If people see a very nice website, they think, okay, that must have cost a lot. Even to this day, where AI is so good at building websites, there's a lot of perceived value in websites. And that is also why it's what we're going to start off with building. Here's an example of the website that you're going to learn how to build, and I'll even give you this template right here so you can actually build exact websites like this from one prompt. You can see we have this nav bar right here that when we scroll, that becomes like a sticky nav bar at the top. I really like this design, the choice of colors, the choice of fonts. It looks very, very professional. And what you'll also be learning in this next part of the module is how to also make these websites actually high converting, because that's one of the places where a lot of website designers, they mess up. It's because they create websites that might look good, but they are not high converting. You can see there's a very bright button right here that you would want to click on. And you also have a number right here that you can call if you want to call them straight away. You'll also learn how to create these very, very clean animations directly with Code and Claude Code. You can see this little plumbing animations right here from the pipe and this calendar animation right here. All of these you'll learn how to create, and you'll learn how to prompt Claude to get a result that looks this good. You'll also learn how to create these type of animations, which are kind of like these cards where they stack on top of each other, which looks very professional. Then you'll learn how to split this into a dark mode that creates like a very nice contrast. And at the end, you're going to have this form right here, and I'm going to show you how you can hook this website up to any CRM that you want. This is a very nice website, and usually web agencies can charge a lot. If I create a new chat and I ask Claude, how much does web agencies charge for a nice looking website, the result will probably surprise you. Look at this. Depends on a lot what nice looking means, but rough market ranges. For a solo freelancer on a template where it takes 1 to 2 weeks, you can charge 1 to 3K. If it's a small boutique, then it's 3 to 10K. If it's a proper agency, it's 10 to 30K. If it's a mid-tier agency, it's 30 to 80K. And if it's a ward tier, like a big web agency where they really spend a lot of the time on the design, they can charge $80,000 to $250,000. And if it's some of the very well-known brands, they can charge $250,000. And you can even see for my agency, I recommend $3,000 to $10,000 for websites. So you can see how much you can actually charge. And again, to set your expectations, you're not going to go out and close your first website to $10,000. But what you might go out is close a website for $500, which would still be a massive win with users starting out. And we can build all of this from inside of Claude Code. I'm going to show you how to build it, of course. I have a skill that creates these websites in literally just like 5 minutes. I'll show you how you hook this up to any CRM, so the information that is captured when people click get an offer is actually being sent to somewhere. And I'll show you how to make your website responsive so it looks good on both desktop and mobile. And I'll also show you how you can host and deploy a website for free up to a certain amount of traffic. But usually, if you're doing it for smaller companies, the hosting would be free. You're going to learn a lot in this next part, so let's get into it. To build clean websites like this, you're going to be using the Build Premium Website skill. And again, you can find all of my Claude skills inside of our completely free community. Just go inside of Classroom, then Learning Hub, scroll down until you find My Claude Skills right here. I'll also leave a link to this right below this video. This drive folder includes all of my Claude skills, because after you've installed this skill and you write /build premium website, you can see this skill builds a premium animated marketing website with React, Vite, and Tailwind CSS for any industry. Use when the user has to build a website, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to use it and write /build premium website. I want to build a website for a landscaping company. Let's just call it Cityscape. Then we hit enter, because what this skill will now do is that it's going to force Claude to ask follow-up questions about exactly what site it is that we want. So the colors, etc. There we go. Now it's going to ask us what the theme should be. I think a bold modern theme looks good. The brand color direction, urban slate, moss, forest rust, olive brass. I think this dark green one, moss green, could look pretty cool. So let's go with that. Let's go with design, hardscaping, lawn, trees, lighting, commercial. For the services, I think that's pretty good. And then I'm going to ask it to build it in this folder that we are currently in. I'm going to write submit answers, and now it's going to build out the plan for this website. You can see it's reading all of these files from inside of the skill that it uses as a reference for how it should design this. Building this out can take a couple of minutes. And there we go. That took 8 minutes and 41 seconds. And now you can see site is live at localhost 5173. So I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to go into our browser, paste this in, hit enter, and there we go. Now we have it. Cityscape, home, services, approach, process, contact. Then we have request a quote right up here. Landscape architecture for the city. We design, build, and maintain. And now we have a clean website in literally just 8 minutes that's based on this template. And you can see we have this animation right here with these stock images, which looks extremely good. We're missing one right here, so we need to fix that. Every discipline under one roof, from a single tree pruned to half-acre estate, plant from scratch. This looks extremely good. Request a quote. When they click on this, it scrolls to this section right here where they can fill in this information. They can even attach photos if they want to, and then they can send the inquiry. Absolutely insane website. And you can see this website right here is built from the same template that we used for the plumbing company. I'm really happy with how this site turned out. We can also right-click and click inspect, and then turn it to mobile right here. And then we can see, okay, it also looks good on mobile, which is also very important for websites these days. Great, you've learned how to create insane looking websites, and you can sell this for probably around $500. But let me show you how to also deploy it. You deploy it by first going to GitHub. If you don't have GitHub already, then create a profile, then click new, and I'm going to call this Cityscape right here. You're going to set it to public because you don't want to give everyone your code to your website, and then you click create repository. There we go. And now you can take this URL right here and you can pass it to Claude Code, and you can say push this code for the website only to this repo. Then you don't want to have it in auto mode because it won't be able to push to a repo in auto mode. So you're just going to set it like this, hit enter, and now Claude is going to push all of this code into the cloud, into GitHub. And you can see it's first checking, hit enter. When you do this the first time, it'll pop up with an authentication where you have to authenticate in order to do this. It'll basically just open a window on your GitHub where you just have to click accept. But because I've done this plenty of times, it already has a connection. Now it is creating a commit, and you can see pushed code is live at this GitHub URL right here. If we then hit enter on the GitHub repo, then we can see our code from this website. And hosting it is actually extremely easy when we have it on GitHub. I'm going to use the platform that's called Vercel.com, which is a hosting platform. Then if you don't have it already, create a user. It's free. Go in the top right corner, click add new, and then project. And then you can paste in this GitHub repo right here when you have your GitHub account connected to your Vercel account. This makes it very, very easy because Vercel can now see automatically, okay, this is a wide project. It's called Cityscape. And all we have to do is just click deploy once. And there we go. Now you can see it's being deployed. This should take usually around something like 30 seconds before the website is deployed. This actually only took 9 seconds this time. You can see it says, congratulations, you've now deployed a new project. We can then click continue to dashboard. And here we have our project. We actually already have a domain that's given by Vercel. If we copy this domain right here and we open it in a new tab, this is the domain that we've been given, then we actually have a preview of what the site will look like when it's live. And it's actually live right now. We can go to this website from anywhere. And you can see it looks extremely good. It looks exactly like it did on development. If you wanted to add a domain, you would come down here onto domains on the left-hand side. And you can see we have our standard domain right here. You would just click add existing, and here you can add any domain that you want, from GoDaddy, from Namecheap, from Cloudflare, it doesn't matter. It will take you through the review process of setting up the DNS, and when you've done that, then you have deployed your website to the web. If you wanted to sell these kind of websites, I would create 5 different templates, and then create a portfolio website where you show these websites that you have built. That makes it much easier for a potential client to make a decision, okay, should I work with this company or not? The great thing about this is that when you have built up a portfolio and when you have built a bunch of skills like this, I'll show you later in this course how you can create something and then create your own skill so you can replicate the process much, much easier. Your work becomes almost automated. Claude can do 95% of your product delivery. And that's the entire point of this business model. It's to build stuff with Claude and then creating skills from it to replicate the process and making the service delivery so much easier. All right, that is websites complete. The next thing you're going to learn is how do you actually automate things? If a client comes to you and says, well, I want my invoicing process automated, or I want my onboarding process automated, how do you actually go about doing that? How do you create automations with Claude Code? Usually you would use a platform like make.com or like NetN. But with Claude Code, there's a much better way of doing it now. We can use the platform that's called Trigger.dev. Trigger is an open source platform for building and hosting automations. You can see that it's open source right here. It has 15,000 GitHub stars, and we can see the entire code base right here. Why is it smart to use Trigger.dev over something like NetN or Make? It's a very simple reason. The reason is that Trigger.dev is built with code. And Claude Code is really good at coding. We actually already have a skill that's called trigger.dev. And this skill is going to be very important when we build out those workflows. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to clear the session inside of Claude Code, and let's build out a couple of automations with trigger.dev so you can see how it works. I'm going to write, I want to automate my invoicing process. I want to be able to fill out a form with a bit of information, and then it should build the invoice, export as PDF, and then send via Gmail to the client. Use two skills, and you will have access to both of these skills as well. First one is the Composio skill. I want to use Composio for authentication. Skill 2 is trigger.dev. I want to build and host this with trigger.dev. I'm going to give it an ultra-think, put it in plan mode, and let's build this out. Remember what I showed you before with the process of connecting Claude directly with your AI note taker like Fathom via the MCP? Right now I explained what I wanted, right? But if you're talking to a client, I want this and this and this automated, you can take that directly, that context directly from the call into Claude Code, and then you don't even have to explain it like I did here. What fields should the invoicing form capture? It should capture it all. So business information, contact information, line items, tax and discounts, everything that we usually have on an invoice. It should create its own invoicing number, and it should take the date automatically. Then we hit enter, and there we go. It's now going to plan out the process of automating this process of creating invoices. For how we trigger the automation, I think we should use a simple web form from Next.js. So I'm going to choose simple web form and hit enter. For the environmental value, it's very important that they're not hard-coded, but in a .env file, please. Let's use React for the PDF. And for the invoice number, let's do it date-based. And then we hit enter. If you know how to build with Claude Code, it almost doesn't matter what it is that you're building. If you know the process of first planning it out, making sure that you actually give it the right context so it knows exactly what you want, then the opportunity is literally endless. You can build basically anything that you want if you know the actual formatting and the method of building stuff. Here's asking about the invoice counter. I think it's a bit overkill to set up the invoice counter in a database. I'm just going to say, let's skip the invoice counter for now and just do it date-based, the naming. For the invoicing, I think both attaching the PDF and storing it in Google Drive is going to be best. Who writes the subject, fixed template with placeholders. Let's actually do it AI generated, so the email is AI generated. And then we hit enter. Now it's going to plan out exactly how we can do this. And there we have it. We have an entire plan for how we should build this out. What's worth noticing is that we are using Composio. If you don't know what Composio is, it's a tool for authentication. So we can authenticate to a bunch of different things very, very easily. I made a full guide for Composio on my channel. So if you want to, you can go and watch that later. And then it's using trigger.dev for building and hosting this automation. The great thing about trigger.dev is that it's open source. And when it's open source, we can host this anywhere we want. The easiest thing is probably just to host it with trigger.dev, and that's how they make money as well. But if you wanted to, or if your client wants this on their own servers, then you can literally just build these workflows and host them wherever you want. That's the power of open source. So now we have a plan. Let's take yes and use auto mode, and let's build out this automation. There we go. Now we can see that it is built. Let me open another terminal. The first thing we do is that we need to fill out this environmental file right here. I'm going to click new file, add a .env file, copy this example over. And then we need to fill out all of this information. So the first thing we need is a trigger secret key. If you don't have it already, then make sure to create a user on trigger and log in. I'm going to create a new project. So in the top left pane, I'm going to create new project. I'm going to call this one invoicing and just click create. Now we can head under API keys and then copy this secret key right here. So we paste that in where it says secret key. And then we also need to go in and find the project ref right here. Copy this one as well. Now we need the Composio API key. So we go to Composio, and Composio is basically what manages our authentication. If you don't have a Composio account, then sign up for one. It is free up to a certain amount of tool calls. Copy the Composio API key and insert that as well. Now we need the Anthropic API key. This is used for the AI generation of the email. So we're going to platform.claude.com, go into API keys, click create key, call this invoicing, click add, copy this key, paste that in as well. We need the Google Drive folder ID. We get that by going to Drive. We just create a new folder. I'm going to call this invoices. If we click in on that, we get this ID right here in the header. So I'm going to copy this one. Then we write all of this information, which is our business info. So let's just try and see if it works. I'm going to write test street 123 building 4 V business phone number. Just write in some random phone number, business logo URL. We can go to our Shiny website. We can copy this image URL right here. That way we don't need to host it, which is smart. Business bank details. Let me just write a random IBAN. Default currency, USD. Default tax rate, 0. Default payment terms, net 14. Default due days. This looks good. Awesome. Then we close down this .environmental file and we say, great, I have filled out the invent file. What now? How do we auth? Now run the one-time Composio auth script. It'll print out 2 auth URLs, Gmail Drive. You click through both and it waits until each connection flips active. Let me just create a new API key. Maybe it was an old one that's already rotated. I'm going to write try again. We still hit a bug. This is a new bug, so Claude can just fix that. There we go. Now you can see it says Gmail OAuth URL. So it's going to give us this URL right here that I can copy and put into our browser. And this is how Composio works. This means that we don't have to set up the Google credentials ourselves. We can use Composio that just gives us this link right here and then click continue. And you can see now Composio is connected to Gmail. I can now say done, come with all URLs, please. So we can connect. And for each service that we connect, it's going to give us a new URL. So now we have the Google Drive URL right here. Paste that in once again. Log in with our Google account. There we go. And now you can see, then open localhost 3001. Server is still not running, so I'm going to ask, please run the dev server for me. And there we go. Now the 2 servers are started, both the backend, which is trigger.dev, and our front end. We can go to localhost 3001, and now we have send an invoice, generates a PDF, drafts with email with Claude, and ships it via Gmail. Blah, from default currency USD, tax 0%, terms net 14, due in 14 days. So I can write, the client's name is, let's do Albert Testing, and let's do the company as, let's just call it Build My Agent, and the address, we maybe don't need to, I can do like King Street 420. Line items, we can do consulting services. One quantity, price, let's do 1500. We need to add another, which is upfront fee. Let's do 1, let's call that 500. Currency, money and date. Currency will be USD, tax rate 0. Discount type, none. Discount value, none. Issue date, let's do that the 18th. Due date, we can just leave that. Payment terms, net 14. Any notes? No. And then we can click generate and send. Of course, we need an email right here. Let me just write in my own email just as a test and then click generate and send. You can see it says queued run ID, and then this run right here. Let's see if it works. Let's ask Claude now to check the logs. Did my test work? You can see it checked the logs and found a couple of issues. So let's let Claude fix those. Keep doing runs and you can see Claude fixed one issue. Let's try and check the logs again. Ran into another bug. We'll fix that. Try and submit once again. Check now. And we just keep doing that until Claude has fixed all of the bugs. And you can see Composio wants user ID, this depending on the tool. Submit again. Let's do that. Generate and send. It says now. There we go. Finish success. Let's see how it looks. If we go to my Gmail and now hit a refresh, you can see we just received an invoice from me. Hi Albert, I hope things are going well at Build My Agent. Please find attached invoice for $2,000 due by payment net terms of 14. So let me know if you have any questions, need anything from my end. Thanks so much for continued trust and working with Shiny. It really means a lot. And here we have an invoice that is generated 100% by our workflow. It has all of our information, invoice number, blah, 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 like this and this and this. Net 14 payment details. Boom. If a company now comes to you and say, well, we spend a lot of time sending out invoices, you know how to fix it. We've just successfully built a trigger.dev workflow without even being inside of a workflow builder or anything. Claude did it all. But let's say we want to deploy this, right? Right now it's running from our computer. It's doing all of this from our computer. We can then write, let's deploy this to production on trigger.dev. Thank you. The way that trigger.dev works in the cloud is that you have these projects right here, and inside of here you have different environments. Like right now I'm in development, but we want to be on production. So now you can see Claude is deploying this, it's pushing it into the trigger.dev cloud. What we have to do is just set the environmental values. We do that by going into environmental values right here, and then clicking add new, then making sure that we have it on production right here. A quick tip is that you can go inside of an environmental value, copy this, then you can go back and paste all of this in. We're just going to show all of the environmental values the right way. We can click save, and there we go. All of the environmental values has now been added. And there we go. Claude has now pushed our task. You can see our task inside of here now. Send invoice has now been added. We don't have any activity yet because we just pushed it to production, but we can run it again if we want. So let's test it. Before we test it, we need to take the API key from inside of production because that's going to be a different secret key. And we need to go in and fill out this new information. So the trigger secret key, change that to prod. Same with the project reference right here. That's actually the same, so we don't need to do anything there. Let's test it now by running npm run dev. I'm going to write, let's test it in localhost 3000 first. Form. I changed the environmental values. Let's try and test it now. So I'm going to write albert testing 2. I'm going to send it to my own email once again. I'm going to call it build my agent 2. And address we don't want. I'm just going to call it testing for, let's say, 1500. USD, blah, blah, blah. All of this we don't need. Generate and send. Now you can see it says sending. Queued run. If you now go into trigger.dev and to our task, you can now see one run was just queued right here. We can also see run is now being executed. That's one of the good things about trigger.dev as well, is that all of this dashboard right here, where it's executing all of the runs, we have a very clean dashboard where we can see what's going on. And now we can see right here, the run succeeded in 13 seconds. If we go to our invoice and give it a refresh, we now have a new invoice with this new information. And our invoice generator is now deployed in the cloud. So that is the backend, right? The backend is now deployed on trigger.dev. If we wanted to deploy the front end as well, we can also do that. We head to the cell, and then we write, great, let's push the front end to the cell. First, GitHub though. We're going to go to GitHub, and just like we did before, we're going to create a new repo. I'm going to call it invoice frontend. We can choose an owner. We're going to choose ourselves. We can click private, and then we can create the repository just like this. Paste this into Claude, hit enter, and now it's going to push our front end. Our front end is this page right here, right? The invoice generator. It's going to push that so we have it online. The crazy thing about this is that you don't have to remember, okay, how exactly did Albert do this? You just have to remember you can use Composio for authentication, trigger.dev for the actual automation. When you tell that to Claude, Claude can figure out the rest. There we go. It is now pushed. We can now, just like we did before, go to the cell, click add new project, paste this in, click deploy, choose next, and just click deploy again. And that will deploy our project to the web. There we go. It is now deployed. We can click continue to dashboard, click on the domain right here, and now you can see the invoice generator is live on the web. The last thing we need to do is just set the environmental values. You do that by going in environmental variables right here, click add environmental variables, and just take the same one that we used before, paste that into the cell like this. Click save. You're going to have to redeploy. And now the invoice generator is live on the web. What's important to know is that right now we have hooked our Anthropic API key up to this invoice generator. It generates this text right here with AI when it sends the email. The issue with that is that if someone got access to this invoice generator, they could send maybe 1,000 emails, which will burn a lot of credits on Claude. So you want to add some authentication. You don't want to just deploy it like this. And in the next part of the course, I'm going to show you exactly how you do that, because you're usually not only going to give them one of these like automations. Usually when you automate something within a business, you're automating maybe 5, 10, 20 different processes that adds up to a bunch of time. This is just one of them. In the next part of the course, I'm going to show you how you can add authentication as well, so only the actual company can access this. And I'm going to show you how you can build almost sort of a mini app with a bunch of individual small tools like this one, where all of the automations are in one place that you can then give to the client, which makes you look very, very professional. And a collection of these is something that you can charge $10, $15, $20,000 for if you're doing it for big companies. There we go. Deployment has been created. If we go to it now, you can see it has all of our information from before, and now it will work from the web. Throughout this course, we have built a lot of things using skills. For example, the website that we created was heavily carried by this build premium website skill. This is probably one of the most important parts about this entire course. And the reason for that is that one of the most important skills that you want to learn if you want to do this one-person AI Claude business is to create a process, spend a lot of time building something out, like this invoicing, for example, and then building a skill so you can cut a lot of time if you had to build it again. So learning how to build generic skills that builds out a process exactly like how you want it will save you a bunch of time in the long run. And the way you want to do this is that you want to use my skill that's called Create Skill. This skill is also inside of our drives. This one right here called Create Skill, which instructs Claude in how to create a good skill. I'm going to say, nice, well done. This was a success. I want to create a skill for creating simple automations like this, where I have some kind of form and that is on Next.js, that's what we used, and the backend is on Trigger. Authentication, if possible, should be on Composio. I want you to take what you learned from this session and add that information into a skill so we can replicate it in the future. Very important. Use the create skill that you have access to. The user should in the start answer a couple of questions about what it is that they want to build. The skill should be generic for any mini automation / tools that they want to build. So it shouldn't be invoicing specifically. In the skill, include that Claude should research before building. Then you want to hit it with an ultra think. You want to hit it with plan mode. And sometimes something I also like to do is to use sub agents to go into our current app as the example and get all context you need. This is something that I like to write, this use sub agents, because Claude is then going to speed up the process of finding context. Hit enter, and now Claude is going to build out a skill for how to create automations like this. This will take a couple of minutes. There we go. Now it's asking some question like, what should the skill be named? I think mini automation fits pretty well. Should the skill bundle start a template directory? Yes. Where should it live? Let's do it in the personal skills. And then click submit answers. Because we use plan mode, it's now asking us if we want to accept this plan. I think it sounds good. So let's accept it. And Claude is now going to build out this skill for us. And there we go. After a couple of minutes, the skill is now built. Something that you always want to ask is this a standalone skill that doesn't reference the invoice app? Answer this, please. The reason for that is that sometimes Claude likes to reference files. But if you want it to be its own skill, we don't want it to reference this folder. We want it to include all of the information in that one skill without needing any other context. But you can see it says, yes, fully standalone, no path references to any other skill. Awesome. Now we have created a standalone skill. When we write Control-C and then click Claude right here, and we now write mini automation, you can see we have a skill that's called /mini automation. Build a mini automation, a Next.js form on the front end, a trigger.dev background task on the back end, with Composio for third-party authentications, etc. Blah, 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 blah. And now you can replicate the automation that we just created with that front-end form for anything that you want. And you want to get a habit out of doing this. So anytime you build something that you think, well, I might build this for another client in the future, please make a skill for it. It's going to save you so much time. And especially if you're building out websites and you want like a couple of different templates to choose from, building out a custom website and then making it into a skill is going to be so valuable for you. I personally believe that in the future with these Claude businesses, the value, the IP is going to be the SOPs and processes that Claude knows. Just like in a regular business now, what's really valuable is all of the documents that businesses have that explains how they do things. The value in a Claude Code company like this will be the processes, the skills that Claude has access to, the information that you have given it. So please make sure to make those skills. They're going to become valuable and save you a bunch of time in the future. Make a habit out of it. It's one of the most important parts of running a Claude Code business like this. All right, now we have gone over how you build websites for clients, how you also build automations, and how you can include AI into that to build agents. The third thing we're going to cover is kind of like the next level to that, which is how do you then build out full AI systems? How do you take a business and then automate as many processes that you can and then deliver that to the client? That's what we're going to cover now. A full AI system is basically just a bunch of automations combined. So just like the invoicing automation that we just created, when you provide a full system, you usually automate maybe like 5 to 10 to 25, depending on how big the project is. So how do you go about delivering this? This varies from agency to agency how you actually do this. Some agencies just deliver a bunch of init inflows, where if the client wants, they can look at the executions of the init inflows, but the reality is that the client is never going to do that. So the client just kind of trusts the agency that it's set up correctly. But that is how most agencies used to do it. When we are building with Claude Code, we want to give Claude access to everything as well. So we'll do this a little differently. We're going to be building a dashboard for the client so they can see exactly what's going on, exactly how many executions, maybe even exactly how much time these automations have saved them so far. That also allows us to provide them with tools, like we just created with the invoicing tool, where if they have some process that requires like something to trigger it, like a form, for example, like we just showed, you can put those tools inside of this system as well. This also allows us to have a front end where they can see all of this, and then also have a separate back end where everything is running. And depending on the size of the project and the client that you're working with, sometimes the client wants to run everything on their own servers. And this system is great for that because the front end, the actual visuals, and the back end is all going to be running as code. And specifically the backend, we are using trigger.dev, exactly like we did in the previous automation. And because trigger.dev is open source, it means that we can host it anywhere. We can host it on a virtual machine, like a machine that's just in the cloud. We can host it on the servers that they're already running. If they're using something like Azure, which is the most normal one, that is like a cloud provider, it's called. Or if they're using AWS, Amazon Web Services, or if they're using Google Cloud. Having a system like this means that you can basically deploy it anywhere you want with a very nice user experience. Let me be clear from the start, sometimes it's overkill building out a full AI system. Let's say that you're delivering a project for a client and all they need is just like one automation done. What you could do is literally just provide the tool like we just did, connect it to something like a type form where you don't have your own front end. This is for bigger projects where you are auditing the entire business and then say, okay, these things are what we can improve. And I'm going to build this out like this and this and this. And you're going to basically get your custom dashboard, custom app where you have access to all of this. All right, let's get into how we actually build this. The first thing we're going to build out is the structure of what is really going to be a full app. We're going to have the front end. And this is going to be very similar to what we already built. It's going to be Next.js as the framework. It's going to be Tailwind CSS for the design. And then I like to use something that's called Next.auth for the authentication that works well with Next.js. And then we're going to use Resend together with Next.auth. And Resend was basically the service that we can use to send emails like magic links. And this is the most secure and easiest way to set up a login. That way you don't have to manage passwords, you don't have to manage usernames. All you're doing is just sending a magic link every time someone wants to log in. They click on that link and they're in. So it's basically like forcing a two-factor authentication every single time, which is the most secure thing that you can do. Then we have the backend. This is where all of our automations are running, and we're going to be building that in trigger.dev. We're going to start by hosting it on trigger.dev, but just know later on if you wanted to host the backend yourself, if you wanted it on something like a virtual machine or hosting the backend on the client's actual servers, then trigger.dev is the perfect thing to build with because it allows you to just take the code and just host it somewhere else as well. And then because we're building out kind of like a full app, we also need a database. For the database, I like to launch fast. And the fastest way that I've found to launch is by using MongoDB. DB, which is a database provider. And the database is where we are basically going to be storing all of this data. So all of the invoices, for example, if we have an invoice generator, all of the client's information like the email and user information. And what's worth knowing as well is that we're also going to be hosting MongoDB in the cloud just to launch fast. If you are at one point wanting to build this entirely on the client's platform, then you can also do that because MongoDB also has a community edition that allows you to self-host it just like you can with trigger.dev. And while it's not entirely open source, their community edition is fine for what you're building as well. So that is kind of the stack that we are going to be using. And don't worry if you don't know what all of these things are yet. After watching this part of the course, you'll know exactly how to set up full AI systems like this. All right, let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do is that I'm going to build a new folder right here. I'm going to call this one, let's just call it AI system. And then I'm going to go out of Claude and write cd AI system, which is basically just going to get me into that folder. And then write Claude. The reason I do this is because I don't want to give it the context of all the other things that we have built as well. We want it to be completely focused on this right here. What I'll then do is that I'm going to write, I want to build out a full app for a client that includes a bunch of small automations. And then I'm going to write the only domain that should be allowed into this app should be @.shiny AI domains. The reason we do this is because if we deliver this for a client, we want to add some additional security measures that only emails with their own domain should be allowed into it. This is basically just an additional layer of security. Then I'm going to write the stack. Next.js. We want to use NextAuth for authentication with no Google login, because we don't need that. We want to be using the magic links. But again, this is something that you could add later if you wanted to. Then we want to use Tailwind CSS, recent for magic links. For the backend, I'm not going to write yet. I'm going to write backend. Let's not create this yet, but I want to use trigger.dev at one point. So just create the structure for it. And then for the database, we want to use Mongo. I'm going to give it some additional information. This app will be a dashboard for the automations they have running. So keep as much as possible in the front end, only automations in the back end. Only automations and processes in the backend. For database, we're going to use MongoDB. And then I don't want it to build anything out yet. I don't want you to build out any automations yet. I want you to create the structure of the app. I want a dashboard when they land inside, a simple sidebar where they will have all of the automations and a settings tab where they can log out, etc. Please build this out. Then we're going to use ultrathink. I'm going to put it inside of plan mode to force it to create the full plan before it starts building. And then we are going to hit enter. It's going to take a little longer now the first time that we are building it out. But just like we have done previously with the automations, what we'll later do is that we're going to create a skill out of this, and I'm going to give that skill to you as well. And then we can basically build out full AI systems like this in a single prompt. Which NextAuth version? Use the latest one. For components, we can use shared CN components. How should the Shiny AI domain restriction work? Only allow @shiny.ai domains. MongoDB persistence for auth. Let's use the JWT session tokens and submit answers. There we go. Now it's going to plan out this entire thing. And there we go. Claude has now written up a plan. I'm also going to tell it to please use the superpowers skill, and I approve of plan. Again, if you don't know what the superpowers skill is, superpowers is basically a plugin that includes a couple of skills for like writing plans, writing skills, executing plans. It's basically forcing Claude to think like a developer, which is very useful when it's building out a full app. So now it's going to build out and scaffold this entire project. That took 13 minutes to build out. Now we want to click into the folder where we have created all of this. We want to go into the .env local example, copy this, paste this, and then rename it and just call it .env.local like this. Cool. Now we need to fill out all of this information. The first is the auth secret. To create this, we can use this command right here that it was so nice to show, which is called open SSL rand and then base6432. Hit enter. That's going to give us a random string of letters. We can paste that in instead of the auth secret right here, just like this one. Then we have the next auth URL. For now, we're just going to keep that at localhost 3000. And then we go under API keys, create an API key. I'm going to call this one AI system. It should have full access. Click add, copy it, go back, paste it in right here. And then I'm just going to write shiny portal. That is going to be the sender. And for the email, I'm going to use this email that I've already set up, which is just going to be this one. So it's going to be no reply at mail.clip.dev. This is the domain that I'm just going to use because I've already set it up once. Then we're using the MongoDB URI. We get that by going to MongoDB. If you don't have one already, then create a user. Create a database and a cluster if you don't have one already. I'm now going to click connect, click drivers, and this gives me this string right here. What we then also want to do is that we want to click done right here, then go into database and network access, click edit, and then we can edit the password. Also generate a secure password, copy this and paste it in right here where it says DB password. Just like this. And the trigger.dev key is not set up yet. We're going to set that up later when we set up the automations and the backend. Now we can click update user right here, and now it should work. The last thing we need to do is that we need to insert the name of the database. It's not called Shiny right here. It is called Newsify right here. It's from a previous project. So I'm going to fill this out as well. Cool. Let's try and run it. So we need to go inside of AI system by using cd and AI system. And then we're going to write npm run dev to start the dev server. Hit enter. This is going to open it up. And you can see it starts on localhost 3000. Let's see what it built out. We definitely need to work on the design of this. But let me sign in with albert@shiny.ai, send magic link. There you go. Check your inbox. Can then go inside of our inbox, albert@shiny.ai, click sign in. And there we go. Now we have our dashboard right here that shows total automations, how many active, how many drafts. Recent activity, nothing yet, welcome back. Your automations dashboard, blah, blah, blah. And then it says Shiny up here. Then we have an example automation right here where we're going to have all of the automations here on the left side. And then inside of settings, you can see you sign into Shiny, email, and then you can sign out. Great. This is just the structure of the dashboard. We definitely need to make this look a lot better before we do anything else. The way we do that is that we use the front end design skill. I'm going to write, that looks good. I want to give our app a makeover. Use the front end design skill. I want it in a linear light mode type of vibe. We should have both light mode and dark mode. Let's build this out. Things, ultra think, hit it with a plane mode so it plans out how we should do it. And then hit enter. I like to build the structure first where it doesn't care at all about the design first, so it builds it out the right way. And then later we give it a makeover so it doesn't look this bad. That will probably take a couple of minutes to fix. Great. Now we have something that looks more like this, which looks good. But I can see we already have an error right here. So I can click on this little icon to copy the error, go back into Claude, paste it in and say, please fix this. Thank you. And now it's going to fix this error right here. It's running a lint. Go. Let's see if it'll. There we go. The error disappeared. If you write at albert@shiny.ai, you can see it says check your inbox. We can then go to our inbox, click sign in. Now it says something went wrong, which is weird. That's because I clicked on the one that was 20 minutes ago. You gotta click on the newest one right here, 0 minutes ago. And there we go. Welcome back. Now it looks like this, and the light mode. This looks a lot better. There's some weird thing going on with the gradient. What I'll do is that I'm going to take a screenshot of this and say this title and other text has a weird gradient. That is too much. Please fix it. Thanks. I like this theme a lot better. And now we have both a light mode and a dark mode. It fixed this Albert text right here, but it still does that weird thing. I'm going to just take a screenshot of it again and say, see how in the sides it's less bright than in the middle. We don't want that. Please fix. Also this light mode button up here, we probably don't want that. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say, nice, the light mode button top right corner. Please remove that. So we only have it inside of settings. Looks a bit brighter, but it still has that weird shadow on the left-hand side right here. Let's try and write on the sides. There's a weird shadow. Can we please remove that? Actually, I think it's because these dots in the background, they probably would need this shadow. So I'm going to write, they should only have the effect on the background dots, not on the headlines and text and components, etc. You can see it's doing it on every single page, kind of like dark to the sides, but then in the middle it's like bright. We want it to be white everywhere. There we go. Now it fixed it, so the text is completely white. I think this looks a lot better. What we're going to do now is we're going to install our first app. So I'm going to write, let's install our first app, which will be this invoicing app that also uses trigger.dev as backend. I want you to, 1, install this front-end form to our AI system folder, and 2, create the trigger.dev backend. We're going to call this the AI system backend right here inside this folder that will include the backend for this automation. Also, make it so we later can add more tasks. That's what it's called inside of trigger.dev. So more automations later. For now, let's add this one. I'm going to set it to plan mode and write use subagents to get all context you need and implement this automation. So now we're going to take the invoice app that we just built previously and we're going to install it into our AI system. And there we go. Now you can see inside of our app, the send invoice automation has now been set up. And now they have the same form that's now in this new branding where they can generate and send an invoice much faster. And then when you're building out this AI system, it will consist of, let's say, 5 to 10 different automations that are automating something. And all the employees would need access to is just this dashboard right here that would allow them to use the automations. The next thing I want to do is to handle the authentication. If it's not auth yet, I want to add a auth button to this right here. For this automation, we need to handle the auth. So please add if we don't have authentication set up when we trigger it, that a modal pops up where they can authenticate. When we created this standalone automation, we handled the authentication using the link inside of the terminal via Claude Code. But of course, our clients will not be able to do that. So we need to add a nice button where they can just authenticate with whatever they're using. Cool. I hope you see the idea of how you can build fully custom AI systems, how you can make it domain specific so only people from this company can use it, and how you now have this structure to build anything that you want inside of here. Your automations doesn't have to be a form where then something happens. You can also set up automations that doesn't require anyone to do anything, where it just runs on autopilot. Let me show you how to do that too. But before we do that, let's make sure that this actually works. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to trigger.dev. I'm going to create a new project that I'm going to call AI system. Then I want to push this straight to production. So I am going to get the API key right here, the secret key, paste that into environmental value right here. And we also need to do that right here. Then we need to go down and we need to get inside of general, the project ref. So I'm going to insert that here too. Close this down like that. Just like before, we need to set the environmental variable. So I'm going to go inside of here, click add new, and then go inside of our environmental file, copy all of this, and then paste this into the production like this and click save. And now I'm going to wait for it to set up the connection so everything works, and then we're going to test it. Cool. Let's try and push this to production. Going to give it the project ref. Right here, I'm going to say we need to set up the backend. I have installed all the env on trigger.dev. This is the project ref. Can you please set this up so it works with everything, authentication, etc. Thank you. So now we're basically just going to push this backend code right here, which is the AI system backend. We're going to take these tasks that are the trigger.dev tasks. I'm going to push it to this new trigger.dev that we just set up. So we have everything in one place. You can see there's no tasks inside of here yet. And there we go. I now deployed it to production. Now you can see the task is inside of our AI system on trigger.dev in the production. If I then just make a test, we can call it Albert test, company name, BMA, just write consulting, set it to $1,500 and click generate and send. You can see it says, there we go, queued, run ID, run like this. And now if you go inside of runs, you can see it's now executing and you can see invoice from Shiny. Here we have it. Cool. So now our send invoice is working. What I'll do now, just like I explained before, is that now we have the start, right? This is a good starting point for every new client that you get on as well. This overview dashboard where you have a company name and one automation is the perfect starting point for every new client that you sign on as well. So we want to give Claude this information. What I'll do is that I'm simply just going to create a new session. Then I'm going to use the create skill and I'm going to drag these in. And I'm going to write, I want to create a skill that creates this kind of front end and back end system to when I close a new client. It should be a generic skill. So first it should ask what the client name is, what the domain is for their emails, etc. It should gather all of the context first. Then I wanted to build out this template with the front end and back end first. After we have built out this structure, we should not have any automations yet. We will then later build automations, but the entire structure should be there, so it's very easy to do. This skill should work standalone, should not reference these folders. It should have everything included with references, etc. inside its own skill. I'm going to give it an ultra-think and hit enter. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to write use sub-agents to gather all the context for how this works. Thank you. I'm also going to write include everything like design, how it works, the domain, the stack, etc. Use sub-agents to gather all the context for how this works. Thank you. There we go. Bit of a long prompt, but we're going to use the create skill now. And again, this skill is inside the Claude Skills folder, which is inside the free community. So to get this skill, just go inside of Classroom, go inside of Learning Hub, and inside of Claude Skills right here, you have all of my Claude Skills in this drive folder. And it's completely free to get. There we go. Now it's going to start building out this and it's calling it new client system skill. This will probably take some time because it needs to gather all of the context first and then build the skill. But you really want to learn how to do this because every time you build something new for a client that potentially could be replicated in the future, you want to build a skill around it. If you don't do this, you're going to start from scratch every time you land a new client. When you do this, you're going to make your life much easier. And there we go. Now you can see the skill is ready. So if I go into a new Claude session, let's restart Claude right quick. And we then write new client system like this. It says scaffold a new client's full stack Next.js 16 front-end dashboard, trigger.dev backend worker from the Shiny automations template. Use when the user says new client, onboarded client, scaffold, new client system, etc. And of course, I'm also going to drop this skill together with the rest of the skills inside of the Google Drive. Now you know how to create full agent dashboards, and you can of course customize this to however you want. If you want graphs right here showing you the task, you can ask Claude to build it. If you want to add a specific automation, you can ask Claude to build it. If you want to add something inside of settings where they can add the users themselves, you can tell Claude to build it. But what I want to do now is build some more automations inside of this dashboard to show you how that would look as well. Let's get into it. All right, let me show you how to build out some more automations inside of our own automation system. What I'll write is I'm going to take this folder and this folder right here, which is basically all the files that this system includes. And then I'm going to write read how this works, use sub-agents, and then I'm going to say specifically look at how the automations are created, etc. Then return to me. We just want to give it the context for how this AI system works before we then try and build out a new automation inside of this session. So it'll probably take a couple of minutes. All right, so let's automate some more business processes. Let's say the onboarding, for example. A lot of businesses right now, they do manual onboarding. So they send out emails manually. They send out the contract manually. They do all of this stuff manually. We can create an automation for this as well and display it inside of here. So we can now write, I want to create a new automation that is called start onboarding. This should, and let's write up what it should do. Send over contract via Gmail using Composure, of course. Send another email with a Calendly link where they can book an onboarding call. Send an email with an onboarding survey, for example. Send another email with Calendly link. So the connection we need is probably just Gmail. The user will provide onboarding link and Calendly link. Because it already now knows the structure of our system, this should be extremely easy to set up. I'm also going to write, please add this task to trigger.dev, of course, like the other ones, straight to prod. And there we go. Now it's going to build out this automation just like the other one. There we go. That was extremely fast. We can actually see that building out this automation actually took only 3 minutes. And it was also a pretty simple automation. But we're going to start here before we build something a little more advanced. But let's say that we just closed me. This is my email. This is my company. Then we can say send a contract URL. This could be something like a DocuSign, but we might want to change this to an actual PDF. So maybe let's do that. Let's copy this and say, can we instead here upload a PDF on the new tool? Thank you. Then it's going to change the automation to do that. Then we insert the onboarding survey and then the Calendly URL. So the Calendly URL could be something like this. The onboarding survey URL could be something like this. And then we need the contract URL, but that's going to change. Now we can instead upload a PDF, but I actually want to generate the PDF instead. Can we actually instead generate the PDF? For now, we just generate a dummy contract. But when we generate, we insert the actual name and business information, etc. Please update. And again, if the client comes back and says, well, I want this changed, or can we do this instead? Then you have everything in code. Claude can literally change anything inside of here. So it's fully customizable. There we go. Now we don't have a field to upload the contract, but now it's basically just going to send out a dummy one. So let's test if it works. I'll put a shiny AI, BMA, insert our onboarding survey, insert our Calendly form. Send this in, click start onboarding. There we go. You can see it queued this run right here. If we go into trigger.dev and look at runs, we can now see that it's now executing this run. There we go. It took 12 seconds. Let's see if I receive something in my email. Now I get the book your onboarding call, onboarding survey, and your contract. Let's get started. This is all automatically sent. You can see we even generated this draft or placeholder contract that we can always change later to exactly what we want. But now it sends out this contract as well that includes my information. Absolutely insane. We just automated the onboarding process as well. And if the client says, well, we want a new lead updated inside of our CRM, or we want something else done, literally just tell Claude to build it, and it's going to build it out for you. But let's build out some more advanced automations. Let's get into it. All right, now you know the basics of creating these automations. But let's say that we want to build something a little more impressive. And this is usually also the things that you'll be selling to clients. For example, let's imagine that a client that you're working with, they have 5 support reps that are answering emails all day long. And you want to automate, let's say, our goal is 60% of that. So all of the questions that are the ones that are asked all the time, that an AI can literally just answer those questions almost instantly. We can also build a full AI agent system like this inside of our dashboards. The great thing about this is that it is custom code. It means that there are literally no boundaries. We can build whatever we want. So I'm going to go back into Claude Code. I'm again going to tell it to read the structure of this full AI system, then return back to me. Use sub-agents, understand how it works, hit enter, it will gather all of the context that it needs, and then it's going to come right back. Great, it returns back after 2 minutes and has all the context. Then we can write, I want to build another more advanced automation. This should be a full AI support email ticket response system that can respond to around 60% of all emails. In this automation, I want the front end to show the AI responses. I want it to show if any has been escalated. I want to be able to upload a full knowledge base, so it should use RAG to search through it and answer questions based on this knowledge base. It's getting a little more advanced here, but luckily we do have Claude that can build out all of this for us. We will use Composio to answer the emails using Gmail. I want to trigger the trigger.dev every 10 minutes to check for new emails and then respond to every single one that has come in. If the ticket requires human attention, we should be able to escalate it and see the escalated emails in the front end and be able to respond to them from within the front end as well. I also want to be able to see the AI responses inside the front end too. Let's see if there's anything else that we need. Let's plan this out. Please use the superpower skill and ask me if you have any questions. Let's fire away that prompt, and you can see it's going to load the superpower skill and ask us any questions if it needs more context. We can all of a sudden start building some really cool advanced stuff based on the current structure that we have. How should the AI reply behave for the 60% it's confident about? It should also send immediately. Of course, if you're building this out for a client, you would of course have talked with the client and asked how it should do it, but we're going to auto send immediately. What format will the knowledge base come in? Let's do PDF files. Let's actually just do text files. That is a lot easier. Well, we can actually turn on all of them. Submit the answers. Where should we store the vector embeddings for RAG? We could use something like Pinecone or Postgres, but we actually already have vector search inside of MongoDB, so let's use that. Let's do if any human asks for like low confidence from AI, angry tone and refund, and let's also do specific clarifiers like this, submit. You can see it's asking all of the right questions that it needs in order to build out this plan. Which email account does this monitor reply from? One shared inbox, yes. And there we go. Now you can see it's exploring the project to get context, and then it's going to ask a couple of clarifying questions, come with a couple of approaches, and then design the plan for building this out. How should we identify a ticket? What groups emails together? A Gmail thread is one ticket. That sounds good. When you escalate and reply from the front end, should the AI help draft the human reply? Yep. If we can get AI to pre-draft the reply but just not send, I think that could be pretty cool. Where do we store tickets, messages, KB chunks, and embeddings? Reuse existing MongoDB. Let's do that. Anything important I should add to the spec? Beginning the reply. Per ticket tags, labels, analytics view. Could do an analytics view and a per ticket tag. Submit this. Submit the answers. Got it. Enough to design. Let me present it in sections. Confirm after each. Section 1. This is this. That sounds good. Then it's going to use trigger.dev to poll every single 10 minutes. This also looks good. There we go. That was all of the sections. And now it's saying writing out the spec docs now. That's probably going to take a couple of minutes. Now we have the full design spec, which looks good. So I'm going to tell it to continue. Now it's going to use this design spec to build out the entire plan so it can build this out. It's going to ask us if we want to use sub-agent driven or inline execution. We definitely want to use sub-agent to speed it up. This means that different agents are going to be working on different tasks. You can see I dispatch a fresh sub-agent per task, review between tasks, fast iteration. Usually the fastest and also what's recommended in this superpower skill. So now it's going to use the sub-agent driven development, loaded this superpower skill, and now it's going to build out this entire thing for us based on our instructions. This will probably take a bit to build out because it is a pretty extensive AI system that we are building now. There we go. The next thing we need to do is that we need to go in and get our MongoDB secret, this one right here. Then we need to go to our production trigger.dev, go inside of environmental variables, click add new, click on production. Make sure that we have added both the MongoDB URI and the DB name, click save. There we go. Now I'm going to write, we need this to update on prod trigger.dev so it will work. Can we please do that? Hit enter, and now it's going to push the changes it has made to our backend. It's going to push those trigger.dev so everything will run smoothly. All right, there we go. If I now spin up the server, you can see on localhost 3000, we now have another automation that's called AI support. And here we have a couple of tabs for escalated support request, AI replied, human applied, and all. We also have this analytics tab right here that shows us how many tickets we have. And we have this knowledge base tab, where we can either paste text into the knowledge base, we can add PDFs or URLs. Let's see if this actually works. I can take our shiny.ai website, for example, paste this in, click add to knowledge base. It is processing now. Let's see if it actually works. It says error though, so this didn't work for some reason. Let's try and see if we can fix this. I tried to add knowledge base, but ran into this issue. Can you check what happened? In the meantime, let's try and check the other things like paste text. If I just like copy this entire page and paste it in right here, add to knowledge base and call it basic info. Let's see if it wants to add this. If I then give it a refresh again, it still says failed. So there's obviously something wrong with the knowledge base, but Claude should of course be able to fix this. Now I see why it fails. We need an OpenAI API key. So I'm going to set this value as well inside our environmental value right here at the end, OpenAI API key. And then I'm going to go to platform.openai.com, log in with my Google account. Let's just call it AI system, create the secret key, copy it, paste it in right here. And then we also need to go into trigger.dev inside of the environmental variables here, click add new and add it here too. Let's do a refresh of this right here, go to support. We're actually getting emails now that is escalated to us. No emails has been replied to yet. Let's try and add the knowledge base once again, copy our entire website right here, paste it in, call it basic info, add to knowledge base. Now it is processing, refresh, still processing now, so it didn't fail instantly, that's good. Let's delete these others while we are at it. And there we go. Now it says ready. So if we go back to inbox, we can see it has no subject line right now. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this in and say, that seems to work. Issue now is that the subject lines don't show, even though we do have subject lines. Can you fix, please? Hit enter. And then hopefully it can fix this subject line not showing. But this is an actual email from my inbox, which is kind of cool. Same with this one. This is also an actual email. So it's actually fetching the emails, which is kind of cool. And it is escalating them. Great. I think I also want to add a refresh button somewhere on this page. So I'm going to give it this page right here and say, can we add a refresh button here as well that triggers the polling, please? That way we can also do it manually just to get all the newest ones. And there we have it. Now we have a little poll inbox button right here. If we poll it, it says refreshing just like this. And then it shows us if we have any new emails in our inbox. So let's actually try it. Let me go on this email account right here, right to my personal email right here. Basically write, what does Shiny AI do? And we can basically just ask, hi, saw your website. What is it that Shiny AI does? We can click send. And now I receive my email inside of my inbox. Let's see if we also receive it or if we hit a little polling right here. For some reason it doesn't show. Maybe it's because it's under AI replied. Check the latest poll. I ran it after sending an email to myself to check it, but the email doesn't show up. Why is that? Check the latest logs. Let's see if I can figure out what happened. There we go. The issue was apparently that I clicked in on it, so it became red. Of course, we only want to take the unread emails. So yeah, the system is actually working like it's intended. Cool. But it's still being escalated. So we need to fix some prompting, I think. I can write, see this email. It's a simple question, and we have it in our knowledge base. Why did it get escalated? Hit enter and see what it says. All right, this was another one of these issues where it wasn't really an issue. I just had to refresh. But now I've added auto refreshes every 30 seconds inside of this tab. And if we go to AI replied and we click in on this, we can actually see, hey, saw your website, blah, blah, blah. And then the AI actually replied with this. Hi, thanks for reaching out. China AI helps businesses boost sales. It's using the information that it got from the website. And if we click why this reply, we can even see the confidence score of how smart it thinks it was. We can see the citations that it used from our knowledge base. This is extremely cool and it works. So now we basically have an AI inside of our support email that can reply to questions. When this confidence score isn't as high, it's going to put it in the escalator tab so we can reply to it. I hope you start to see the power of these insane automations and agent systems that you can all build inside of your own kind of dashboard right here and provide to a client. And the great thing is that as you build these systems out, you could then sell this support inbox to another client, and it wouldn't really take you that much work to set it up with a new knowledge base on a new client. And the crazy thing is the amount that you could sell this for. If you sold this to a big company, you could probably charge anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a month, depending on how big the team is. Because think about it, right now their support rep is probably being paid maybe like $2,000 a month. If it's in the US, then probably $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So if a team has, let's say, 10 support reps and all of a sudden they only need 5, you're saving them 5 times, let's say $3,000. That's $15,000 a month you're saving them. And if you're charging $5,000, you're still saving them $10,000 a month. And this is just one of the automation systems that you can build out. You can automate all processes inside of a business, smack all of these automations here on the left-hand side, and you have a killer product. And you can manage all of this with Claude Code. What I'll do is that I will take the code for this entire dashboard right here with the trigger.dev backend. So these folders right here, AI system and AI system backend. I'm also going to take the Cityscape website so you have that as well as reference. And I'm going to put the GitHub repos right below this video. The last thing I want to do is that I want to host the front end. Right now we are still on localhost 3000. The backend is hosted on the cloud.trigger.dev, but the front end isn't hosted yet. And it's honestly quite easy to do. It's the exact same thing we did with the other website. We just open vasil.com and click add new project. Then we want to push this to GitHub. So I'm going to say, I want to push only the front end. So the only this AI system folder right here, that's the front end, not the back end, only the front end to GitHub. Then we're going to open a new tab. We're going to go to github.com. We're going to create a new repo. I'm going to call it AI system front end. We're going to make this private. Create repository, then we can copy the link right here. We can paste it in and say push to this repo. You won't be able to do this in auto mode, so I'm going to set it to just like the default mode. Hit enter, and then we will have to accept the commands. It's asking us what to push. I'm going to ask it, I want to push this to separate repo so I can host the front end. So only the AI system. Standard push, it's empty, brand new, and then we push it. Something that I always like to do is that I write, of course, don't push any secrets, etc. Just so we don't push any of these secrets to GitHub for security. Always good to remind Claude not to do that. Sometimes it gets ahead of itself. It is running all of these commands. We'll just let it do that. There we go. Created a little mini plan for itself. Now it's going to push this front-end repo to GitHub. There we go. Now it is pushed. If we go onto GitHub, then hit enter. Now you can see we have all of the files inside of here. Let's host that by going to Vasil, copying this GitHub repo, pasting it in, clicking deploy. It's going to see that it's a Next.js application right here. Click deploy again, and let's see if we have any build errors. See, we already have a build error. So what I'll do is that I'm going to copy this. Better thing to do actually is to go inside of here where we are running it. And then instead of npm run dev, we can write npm run build, which is going to show us all of the build errors inside of this folder. You can see it compiled successfully, running TypeScript. This actually built successfully. So I'm not sure what this error is. So let's copy this, paste it in and say, when I try and host on Vasil, I get this. Why? The front end installed MongoDB 7, but PMs if we install both, Vasil doesn't pass legacy by default. So clean fixes, I downgrade MongoDB 6. Let's do what it recommends. There we go. It pushed the changes to GitHub. So let's try and deploy it again. We can just click deploy once more. And now we should not get this error again. You can see it passed the first 10 seconds, which was where we had an error before. And there we go. Congratulations, you now deployed a project. Let's continue to dashboard. We get this domain right here that we can go to. And you can see this will now be the login screen right here, which will only allow us to sign in with a Shiny domain. So I'm going to write my email, click send magic link, and we see something went wrong, which is because we don't have our environmental variables yet. So go inside of here, and then we need to fill out all of the environmental variables, click add, pasting in all of these, click save, and do a little redeploy like this. This will take another minute or so, and then it will deploy it. Let's click right here, view deployment, look at logs right here, build logs to see if it deploys like it should. There we go, build completed. If we then give it a refresh and write in our email, now it should work. I can see right here that it's going to localhost, and that's because I forgot to change one of the environmental variables. So let's go to next auth URL right here. You can see we're going to be using this URL instead. Paste this in, click save, and click redeploy. Right now we're using this domain right here, which is the domain that Vercel gives us. But you probably want to add your own domain when you set up an AI system like this. The way you do that is that you just go inside of Vercel again, go down to domains, and then just click add existing, and you can write in whatever domain you want and connect it using DNS. If you have any issues with that, then you can just ask Claude. After you've changed the domain, then it's very important that you go inside of the environmental variables, just like I forgot to do now, and change this next auth URL to be the URL where your app is running. If you don't do that, you're going to run into the same issue that we just did before. Now it's deployed once again. Let's hit enter, write in albert at shiny.ai. Now it is sending the magic auth URL, and now we are in, and we have our AI support, we have our AI send invoice, we have our start onboarding, we have all of the processes that we built just before. There we go. Now you've deployed an AI system that could be for a client. Congratulations for reaching this far into the course. Great. Now you know how to build in these 3 levels. Websites as the easiest thing to build, then individual automations to automate stuff with trigger.dev, and then how you can build a full app and dashboard around it that has multiple different automations in order to deliver a full project. What I'll show you next is my structure and my way of basically being able to build anything. Because now you know a couple of things that you can build and deliver to a client. But if a client has some specific request and you want to build something that you don't have a tutorial on, that doesn't exist on YouTube, how do you go about that? How do you build anything? I usually break it down into 4 different steps. The first thing, before I even start building anything, we need to create a really, really good build plan. This includes things like the tech stack that we are using, how it will work, what database, what frameworks, what exactly is it that we are building. It also includes things like the design. How should it look? What should the feel of the thing we are building? What should that be like? And that is actually the most important step of building anything. And the reason for that is that there are so many things that goes into this step of figuring out, okay, what are we building and how do we build it? Specifically with the tech stack. Because if you're building something like an app or an automation, the tech stack is what determines what the cost of running it will be and how fast it's going to be as well. And how well does it scale? And if we at one point later on want to add more things, is that possible? Can we add more features? Can it actually do the things that we want? Can we give it the functionality that we need and want in our app? Automation or whatever it is that we are building. This build plan, what most beginners do when they're building something is that they just write, I want to build this and this and this, hit enter and then take it from there. But what happens most of the time is that they end up with a bad tech stack. They don't go back and forth with the large language model in order to actually get the best tech stack possible for what they're trying to do. And they end up launching something that is mediocre, that makes them run into issues later down the line when it comes to scaling, the cost, how fast there is functionality, etc. So before we start building anything, we want to have the tech stack dialed. We want to keep going back and forth with Claude until we get the best tech stack possible. And then we also want to nail the design so we know exactly what the feel should be of the user experience before we even start building anything. It's much harder down the line to change something from bad to good rather than just building it from good in the start. After we have done that, after we have spent a lot of time, and I'm literally talking hours here if you're building something complex, figuring out the tech stack, figuring out the design, and making sure that all of these will be good, now it's time to build out the implementation plan. What people that are a bit more intermediate but still beginners, what they do is that they maybe just make one plan of, okay, this is what I want to build, give it to Claude and then have that build it out. And Claude will actually do this next step itself, which is building out an implementation plan. But you're going to get much better results if you actually verify that you have a good implementation plan. An implementation plan is basically a plan for how do you actually build the thing that you have written out in the build plan. And the way I like to do them is split them up in steps. And for each step, I want a bunch of different checkboxes. So to give you an example, step 1 might be to set up file structure. And in the file structure, there's a bunch of different sub-steps in setting up the file structure. And you want to write all of this out in your implementation plan. And if you're building something very complex, you might have something like 40 steps in your implementation plan in order to build the thing out that you want. And before you even start building anything, you want to make sure that you have this implementation plan dialed. In step 2, the next thing we might want to build out is maybe the database structure and then maybe authentication. Claude knows the best sequence of how to build out anything, but you want to force it to make a good implementation plan. You want to force the AI to really make a decision and make a good decision for how to build out the thing that you want. And then after you've made the build plan and you've made a good implementation plan, that is when you start building. And the way you do that now is that you give the large language model this implementation plan, of course. And then you tell it, please start with step 1. And the large language model is now going to start with this substep, then do this substep, and then do this substep, and come back to you and say, well, step 1 has now been complete. Do you want me to start with step 2? And then it's going to start step 2. It's going to do the sub-steps inside of step 2, and then it's going to finish. This is much better than just giving it an entire plan or just giving it a build plan and letting it control everything itself. By this, you force it to do it in the best sequence possible. And you've planned everything out before you even start building anything. I hope you start to see the power of building out both a build plan and an implementation plan. And actually, when it comes to like the time that you're building, step 1 and 2 will be where you spend 80% of your time. Step 3, when building something out. And actually building it will only take around 20% of the time. A lot of people in the AI space get this wrong and they spend 80% of the time just letting the LLM build and only 20% of the time planning it out, if they even do plan it out at all. So when you've made a build plan, you've made an implementation plan, and the AI has gone through every single step, all the way down to step 40 or however long your implementation plan is, and the AI is now done building it, then it's finished. And you'll have to test and refine it a lot. You'll definitely run into bugs. It almost always happens. And you basically just go through them, paste the bug to Claude, and have it finish everything. That is basically how you go about building something. In all of this, you want Claude to be almost a consultant that can explain to you what is the best tech stack, what should I use for building this, what gives me the best results. And a bonus tip that gives you even better results is if you use 2 large language models. It could either be 2 Claude Code sessions, could also be 1 Claude and then 1 Codex. But if you have one AI as kind of like the consultant that decides what to use, and then you take that decision and you give it to another AI model and you say, is this true? They're then going to bounce ideas and make sure you get the best result possible. And by doing that, you can start with absolutely no technical ability and you can figure everything out on the fly. Awesome. Let me actually demonstrate exactly how you do this by building something that I have no idea how to build. And I'll show you exactly how you use this 4-step framework right here to do the exact thing that we just talked about. Let's get into it. To show you that this actually works and to show you how to actually do it, let's build something that I haven't built before, just to show you that it actually works and that you can build something really, really good without knowing how it works first. I want to build a lead enricher. What that basically means is that I want to be able to insert a name or an email or a LinkedIn URL. And from that, I want to search up a database of some kind of sort. And from that, I want a software that can go out and get all information on that person. So if I wanted to find someone's email, I could just paste in their LinkedIn URL and that would give them their email. I have a slight idea of how to build this. I can probably use some API from like Apollo or something, but I wanted to show you how you can know none of that and get all the answers from Claude in order to build it out. So I'm not going to help it and tell it what to do. Claude is going to make the decisions for us. I have a blank project right here. I'm just going to hit under the terminal and click New Terminal, and then open up a Claude session right here and click Yes, I trust the author. Then I'm going to drag it on top right here, and I'm going to write, I want to build a lead enricher. First, I want to build a build plan. Ask me some questions about how it should work so we can create a build plan as a .md file. We just set it to auto mode and hit enter. And now Claude will ask us a couple of questions to basically build the thing that you want to build. And you can actually see it's even using the superpower skill, which kind of forces this entire process. This superpower skill first creates the build plan of what we want to build, which is basically what it calls a design spec. And then it actually also builds out an implementation plan. This is what's going on under the hood for the superpower skill. You can see it says, what's the input to the lead enricher? What do you start with? I want to be able to start with anything. And from that, so either email, company domain, name plus company, LinkedIn URL, and from that get all of the information. So I should be able to insert what I have. Hit enter. What output fields do you want the enricher to return for each lead? Let's do person basics and contact info and company info. And then, yeah, let's get socials as well. Submit. Hit enter. Which enrichment data source do you want to use? This is why we want to make sure that we actually make a good decision. Choosing an enricher is the biggest cost of running this. And right here, it's giving an option to have multiple and use each as fallback. I like that idea, so let's do that. What do you want to interact with the enricher? Let's do a small web app like this. How should leads be input into the web app? Both single bulk, one form from a single lead. Let's just do single lead only for now. Do you want to store enriched leads, or is it lookup only, store history? And if you reach a question where you don't know the answer, you can literally just scroll down. If you're using the Superpowers plugin, you can also just go out of it and then discuss it with Claude. But we can write chat about this and then say, what would you recommend? And then it says, I recommend store history in a database, reasons, saving on cost, blah, blah, blah. The only reason to skip storage is if you have a strict privacy policy compliance reason. Let me just say for now that we don't need to store it. Now you can see it says, got it, lookup only. How should the provider fallback chain work when enriching a lead? Sequential with merge, try Apollo first, then Hunter. Let's try and just say, let's just try Hunter first. And I want it to stop when it finds the email, because that is the main thing. If there's something that you don't understand, something that you don't have an answer to that you think is best, did you just ask Claude what it would recommend? Here you can see it says, what order should the providers be tried in? Gives us a couple of options. I'm just going to say Hunter only, but you can literally just go back and forth with Claude like this. What's the tech stack? Should I match the Shiny Automations template? It knows this from memory. Let's do Next.js only and no trigger.dev for now. I have enough to draft the design. Here's the proposal, architecture, blah, blah, blah. That's all of this. And now it's creating what's called the design spec. And the design spec is basically what I called the build plan in my previous explanation of how to build anything. You can see it has two questions, two things I'd like you to decide before I write the spec. How should I handle the LinkedIn URL case? Let's for now skip URL, and let's do a dropdown. The skill I'm using right here, which is also very valuable for you to know about, is called Superpowers. And what Superpowers basically does is that it forces Claude to think like an engineer. All you have to do is literally just search GitHub Superpowers. You're going to find this GitHub repo right here. It's called Opera Superpowers. Click on this, and you can see it has 208,000 stars. All you do is that you literally just copy this right here, and you go to Claude, and you say, please install these skills. Search up the documentation for installing global Claude skills before you do it. Literally just send this like this, and it's going to install the skills for you. After you've done that, you might have to restart Claude just like this before it's ready. But now I can see spec written and saved to docs Superpowers, and then it has the spec right here and the design. There we go. So if we click this, you can now see it build out a full plan for us. And we want to read this carefully to make sure that it aligns with exactly what we want to build. So you can see it says lead enricher, design spec, it shows the date, it shows the status, which is draft. Goal, a personal web tool for enriching a single lead at a time. The user enters whatever they have, email, company name, or domain, name and company, and the app returns the lead's contact information, company info, and social presence. There we go. Non-goals. We don't need a CSV enrichment. This is not what we want. It shows the stack right here. It shows the user flow, it shows the architecture, shows the component responsibilities, what each page should do. you can basically see we have a full plan already for exactly what it is we want to build. If we find something inside of here that we don't like, we can tell Claude to fix it in the implementation plan. It even shows how the enrich lead should be structured. It shows error handling, it shows file layout, and it shows out of the scope, maybe for the future, like this. Nice, now we have our full build plan. And right now we're building a fairly simple tool. It's just like a personal tool. If you were to build out a full software, for example, then this would definitely be an extremely long build plan. You would have to include pricing and authentication and databases. And maybe you're running some virtual machine or like hosting the backend. All of this would be inside of your build plan, or what superpowers call it, the design spec. You can see it says spec written and saved. I'll say I have read it now. Please continue. Now you can see it's using a different skill also coming from superpowers that's called writing plans. And this is where we go to the next step, which is building out the implementation plan with these sub-steps. And building out this implementation plan is actually the thing that usually takes the longest. I'll let it do that and then I'll come right back. And there we go. Now you can see the plan is complete and saved inside of plans. And this is what the implementation plan is, right? If we click on plans and I'll click on this, you can see we have the entire file structure. We have task 1, do this and this and this and this, set all of these things. Step 5, step 6. So it's basically split up in tasks and then steps inside of these tasks, exactly like this. So now we have two options. Do we want sub-agent driven, where each thing are built, where a fresh sub-agent is doing each task? This speeds it up a lot. Or do we want to do everything in line? I'm going to do one sub-agent, start the build, and only now, after we've made a spec and after we've made a plan, is when we start building it out. So now it's going to build out this little mini app for us, which is a lead enricher. And there we have it. Now Claude has built out this entire thing by following the implementation plan. And this took 13 minutes. The next thing we want to do is testing and refining, and we are probably going to run into some bugs. You can see we have our environmental values right here. Let me copy that, paste it, and then rename it to just local. And let's then update this Hunter API key. Go to hunter.io and go to API, copy this API key, go back, paste it in right here, close it down, and let's try and run the server. So we can now write npm run dev. That's going to give us localhost 3000. Paste it in and let's see if our app works. So it says lead enricher right here. What do you have? Let's say we have a name and company, and the name, we can write this. Let's test it on myself first. Company name, shiny.ai. Let's see if we can find it using this. Click enrich. Now we run into this issue right here. So I'm going to copy this. This was as expected. Paste it in and say we run into this issue. Hit enter, and then we should be able to fix it. It was something to do with how it's passing the information. So let's see if it works now. So you can see it's making a bunch of updates now in the code. Now it wants to test it. We can just stop it here. Let's try and restart the server. Write name and company email again. Click enrich, and there we go. Now we have a bunch of information, and it could even, just from my name and the company name, it could find my email. Let's see if I just write shiny.ai and click enrich, see what data it then finds. Then you can see it actually finds Oliver, my co-founder, and his email. And there we go. The lead enricher works. It's not a very impressive app because it literally just uses the Hunter API, but it was also show you this flow right here of building something that you've never built before by using these 4 steps. Creating the build plan, creating the implementation plan, and then having the LLM build for you, but spending a lot of time on the build plan and the implementation plan. And then when you have all of that, when you have sharpened your axe, that's when you start building it. And I guess we can do the next step, which is testing it and refining it. We have already done a bit of testing, but let's refine it as well. I can give it the front end skill now and say, make it look clean and modern, like a modern SaaS. Hit enter. And now it's basically just going to give our entire software a full makeover of how it looks. That's a part of the refining step, actually making it look good. There we go. Now we have given it a bit of a makeover now. Find anyone's work email. And now we can choose either email, domain name, company. It works exactly like it did before, but now it just looks a little better. Awesome. The reason I wanted to build this out is just to showcase how you basically build anything. So when a client comes to you and tells you, I want to build out this and this and this, I want to try and automate this. Is this possible? You can literally just ask Claude about how would I build this? How would I go about this? Use this framework right here for first creating a build plan, creating the implementation plan, and then having it built out. And that basically allows you to build anything you really want or would never need. If you're already technical, then you might be able to skip some of these stages. Like you might already say that I want to use this and this and this tech stack because you already know that this tech stack would be good for the task. But if you're a beginner and you're just starting out and you don't have that much technical expertise, don't skip the step of just chatting with Claude and finding out what the best tech stack would be for things like scaling, cost, how fast it is, the functionality, etc. Go back and forth with Claude a lot about that and you're going to get the best results. In the next part of the course, we're going to talk about pricing because now you know how to create a bunch of stuff. But how do you actually price it? How much can you charge? What pricing model should you use? That is what we're going to cover now. Now you know how to build a bunch of different things and you also know the framework for basically being able to build anything using Claude Code. But how do you actually price your services? How much should you be charging? This is a question I get a lot, and I always use the golden rule that when it comes to developing an AI project, you always want to give your clients a 5x return on investment. So let's say that you save your client $5,000 in payroll or in whatever solution that you implemented, you would be able to charge $1,000 from that for your service. If you keep this 5x return on investment, your client will always be happy, and a happy client means low churn, which basically means that they stay with you for a very long time. If they're paying you monthly, you of course want them to stay as long as possible, and it increases referrals. If you did a good job for them, then they're going to refer you to their friends that are also business owners that might also have the issue that you're solving. And this is where you potentially can achieve negative churn, which basically means that your agency grows without you doing anything, just from serving your clients right now without paying anything else in marketing. Your agency would still increase because the churn is so low and clients are referring you to other clients in a higher rate than the churn you have. And that all starts by giving your clients a good return on investment. That's the entire point of this business model. And in any service business, really, you need to go in and do a hell of a job, give them a return on investment in order to actually deserve the $1,000. But how do you actually calculate the return on investment for your services? It is basic math. Let's just use an example that you are installing voice agents. And right now you're working with a client that right now has 10 people in customer support and they're taking calls all day. They're answering the same questions over and over again. So now you install your voice agent system. And this now means that they go from 10 customer support reps to, let's say, 5 customer support reps. This means that they've cut 5 customer support reps. Each rep might be paid something like $2,000 a month. So when you have cut from 10 down to 5, that is 5 reps. That basically means that you're now saving this company $10,000 a month. So using the 5x return on investment rule, that means that from that, in order to keep the client very happy, you'll be able to charge $2,000 a month for that. And if you do it like this, then they have no reason to churn. You're literally saving them still $8,000 every month just from using your system. Of course, you need to do some work, you need to maintain it, you need to make sure that voice agents actually do a good job, but that is also what you're paid to do. That is how you can calculate a return on investment. You might also have a system that directly generates revenue. Let's say you have like a cold email AI system that you install for clients. And that system is generating a business, let's say $100,000 a month in new revenue. When you do this, you need to calculate in gross profit, because this is revenue. Gross profit is what you have left after you remove the fixed costs. So things like payroll for taking care of the client, how much is the company actually profiting from that $10,000 worth of revenue? That might be, let's say, if they have good margins, like $40,000. So that is, in theory, what you're making them every single month. You can charge 1/5 of that, which means if you're running this system right here, you'll be paid $8,000 a month. So you always want to give them at least a 5x return of their money. And of course, this $100,000 a month in revenue that you're giving them needs to be new revenue, right? Not their existing revenue already. So if you can, by installing your system, give them a 5x return on investment, then they're going to be very happy and they're going to stay with you forever. But what pricing structure do you then use? If you want to make it really easy, and if you want to follow the golden rule, when it's available, when result-based, when it makes sense, is a very, very good offer. If you literally just say to them upfront that you're going to be taking 20% of the gross profit that you make a company, that is such a no-brainer because there's no risk in it for them. You remove all of the risk. Now there's only an upside. And it also shows that you're very confident in what you're doing. The negatives are, of course, is that you need to be able to track all of this. So this usually works with larger clients where you can actually go in and control and see, okay, how much money am I making them, that you can follow each lead in the process, that they have a good CRM, etc. That's one of the really good offers, result-based. And when you are good at what you do, result-based will also usually pay you more than something like a regular retainer. Let me give you an example. Shiny.ai, which is our AI agency, does lead reactivations, and we always use result-based. We had one client where we probably could have charged maybe like $1,000 a month on a retainer. But because we did it as result-based, because we went after the golden rule, that client in total actually made us around $240,000 in LTV. So we probably at least 10x the lifetime value just from doing it result-based. Result-based is one of those offers that you'd rather have a retainer if you're bad at what you do, but if you're really, really good at what you do, you would always rather have result-based because you're paid for every result that you bring. So if you can scale that up, your result also scales infinitely. I hope that kind of makes sense. But this offer right here is not always the best one to use, because sometimes it can be hard to calculate how much something is worth. Let's say that you are implementing customer support widgets on websites, right? So this little website widget in the bottom right corner. It's very hard to say how much a conversation is worth. You could still do result-based. It will probably not be of gross profit. Instead, it might be per conversation, for example, that you're charging them a little something. Maybe you're charging them something like $1 per conversation. So this definitely still adds up if they have like 200, 300 conversations a month. But that's one way that you can do these kind of like support agents as result-based, but you cannot really like calculate gross profit directly from like a support agent. So sometimes result-based really doesn't make sense. Instead, what I recommend at that point is the upfront offer plus recurring, because sometimes it's simply like impossible to track. And it also becomes a headache if you have like 50 clients to track the performance every single month. So charging something upfront and then a recurring afterwards is sometimes the best option. But if you do that, I'll always recommend that you use the satisfaction guarantee. This has worked so well for us. Let's say that we want to charge a client $2,000 upfront, and then let's say $500 a month. If we just give them this offer right here, there's a bunch of risk, right? The client is taking a risk. Okay, does this even work? And they're paying a pretty big amount right up front without even seeing if it's going to work yet. Instead, what I want you to do is to give a satisfaction guarantee. So you still charge $2,000 up front. You say, I'm going to build this out. It's going to cost $2,000 as a setup fee, but I'm so confident in my own ability that I can build this really well out for you. So after I've built out the entire system, so if you're building a dashboard, you will build out everything. If you're building a website, you'll build out everything. You're basically going to say that I'm going to build out everything so you can see exactly how it looks. Then we're going to hop on a meeting. And if you don't like the result at that moment, then you can get a full refund. So then we have the satisfaction guarantee. The reason why this is so strong is because now all of a sudden there's no risk in it for them. If they don't like what you have built, then they can just get their money refunded right afterwards. But if you're actually good at what you're doing, which you hopefully are, then people are not going to refund because they're going to see a website that they actually like, or they're going to see a dashboard that actually automates the things that they want automated. It's very important sometimes for some projects that you get some money up front. The reason for that is that it has happened countless of times for us that we have started a project without taking any money up front, and then the client simply like stopped answering. Maybe he got cold feet, maybe something else came up, maybe he was just too busy. But the reason they could just like stop answering and don't care anymore is because they were not invested. You want people to be invested right from the start when you work with them. So this is like the perfect middle ground. You still get them invested, you still get money up front, but you remove the risk by giving them a satisfaction guarantee. And if you're good at what you're actually doing, we have given this offer a bunch of times, and we have never had to give a refund because every single time we have shown someone a website, for example, or shown someone a system that we have built out for them, they have said, this looks good, I'm ready to try it. Awesome, let's get started. And for a lot of the time, actually forget about the satisfaction guarantee when they see something that's really good. And then I'm a big fan of recurring businesses. I don't like to work on a project basis. I like having recurring revenue coming in every single month. So when you charge an upfront fee and then charge a lower recurring fee, this lower recurring fee is usually not a problem. And this really helps when you start to stack like 10 plus clients. All of a sudden, this recurring revenue is just stacking and compounding. What you basically justify is that this is to keep up support, it's to keep the system active, to fix anything if any issues come up. That is what this fee, basically like a service fee, covers, right? Which is a monthly recurring fee. Another thing that's very important to talk about is that you always, of course, want to make sure that you profit. You don't want to build out a full system for them and then cover, let's say, the software cost yourself, and then realize that you're not going to profit. A way to overcome that is to use tiers, just like you would with the software, where you have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, that becomes more and more expensive. You can do that as well with your AI services. The key here being that you always want to make sure that you profit. Let's say that you're building out the voice agents, to use the example from before. Then you could have, let's say, 100 calls on plan 1, let's say 1,000 calls on plan 2, and let's say 5,000 plans on plan 3, and then have maybe like a fourth plan that's like 5,000 plus, which is maybe per conversation or something that you can charge for. By doing that, by having different tiers, you always make sure that you are in the green. If you're just charging like $500 a month and all of a sudden you realize that this company is massive and they're going to have like 10,000 calls a month, you might get ruined. So you want to make sure that you're dialed in on this and that you are always in the profit. A question I get a lot as well is, should I include software in my price? Like, let's say that you're building out the voice agents as an example. It costs maybe like $100 a month for you to run it. Should you tell that to the client and get them to pay $100 extra? Or should you include it in your price? So if before, if you're charging $500, then you would just charge $600 without telling them. And from my experience, what I've seen is that a confused person doesn't buy. If someone is confused about what they're going to pay, what they're going to get, they're not going to purchase anything. So you want to make your offer as simple as possible. Instead of saying, well, it's like $500 a month for the service and then $100 a month for the actual software, we almost always include it all in our price and just have a very simple offer that is easy to understand. There's one scenario, however, where we don't do this, but where we actually do this. And this is if the client wants to like own the system completely or like run it on their own servers. This is usually with like bigger clients that wants to run everything on their own servers. The price tag for that is of course going to be much higher as we now need to install it on their servers. And when we're doing that, they are of course also paying for like the hosting and the software cost. So I'd say when you're just starting out, like 99% of the time, you would just include the cost inside of your price. When you start going up market and working with larger clients, that's sometimes when you have to sell them, well, it's going to cost this and this on your own service. And you basically take the price out of your service fee. I mentioned it a bit earlier, but please, this is just like a reminder. You never say the price of the service before you have shown the value. It's what we talked about, right? You don't, for example, if you're typing with someone in the DMs over email and they're going to ask how much it's going to cost, you never say the price before you show what you're actually delivering. You also want to say on the call that you're trying to give them a 5x return on investment. They need to see the value that they are going to get to compare it to the price that they're going to pay. You want to be judged on the value, not on the price. And the only way that you can do that is that you hop on a call with them, you talk about the issues that they currently have, and then show them how your solution could be a solution to their problem. If you fuck this up, then you're never going to get them on a call because they're just going to say, well, it's $2,000. That's way too much in debt. But if they realize that it's actually going to save them $10,000, then paying that $2,000 is a steal. And the other thing is that a lot of people, when they start selling in the AI space, they are selling AI. They're focusing on the features like we are using the newest models, we're using the newest technology, we are running it smooth so it's as fast as possible. The reality is that most companies that you're going to work with doesn't really care that it's AI at all. All they care about is the outcome that they're going to get. Will they be able to save $10,000 a month? Yes or no? They don't care about if it's AI or what it is doing it. They just care about the outcome. So when you are on calls and you're explaining the value, that you focus on the pain that they have right now, the amount that they're paying extra right now, which they don't have to. And then from that, show them the outcome, show them what you can help with. Don't focus on the features. Don't focus on it being AI.
I hope that clarified some things in terms of pricing. Now you have all of the information that you really need in order to go out and actually start selling AI services. If you want my help, then you should check out our community, the 1% in AI. Inside of here, we have the 30-day challenge and the 90-day challenge. And the great thing about these challenges is that when you complete them, then you actually get your first month completely refunded. The way it works is that you get this tracker right here that shows you what to do every single day, what modules to watch inside of the 1%, what tasks to complete. And it basically holds your hand throughout the entire process of learning the skills that you need to learn and setting up your AI agency. So if that sounds interesting, then I'll leave it as the top link right below this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope that you're actually going to use this for something. Don't let this be another YouTube video that you've just watched and never actually took action. I am rooting for you. Good luck.